We all have this deep down gut feeling about right and wrong, don't we? It feels so solid, so real, almost like a fundamental law of the universe. But what if that entire feeling is based on a huge error? In this explainer, we're going to dig into a philosophical idea that totally shakes the foundation of what it even means for something to be good or bad.
I mean, come on, we can all agree on this one, right? It just is wrong. It seems so obvious, so undeniable. It's not like a personal preference like your favorite flavor of ice cream. It feels like an actual fact about the world. But is it?
And right there, that's the question that could flip everything upside down. Is the wrongness of an act a real objective thing that exists out there in the world? Something we discover, like we discovered gravity? Or is it something else completely? Let's get into it. So let's start with a theory that suggests our entire moral system has a fundamental glitch running in the background. It's a big idea called meta-ethical error theory. Okay, the key here is that term meta-ethical. It just means we're taking a step back. We're not asking, is stealing wrong? We're asking, what does the word wrong even mean? Error theory's answer is wild. It says that when we claim something is morally wrong, we're trying to state an objective fact. But, and this is the kicker, it argues that there just aren't any objective moral facts anywhere in the universe. So every single moral statement we make is technically false. This analogy just nails it. You could have a perfectly logical, well-reasoned debate about whether unicorns are faster than griffins. Your arguments could be flawless. But the entire conversation is pointless because it's based on an error. Unicorns don't exist. Error theory says that's exactly what's happening when we argue about morality. Now, this isn't some brand new idea. It was most famously put forward by the philosopher J.L. Mackie back in 1977. And honestly, the title of his book says it all. He argued we're not discovering right and wrong, we are inventing it. All right, I know that is a pretty mind-bending claim. So why on earth would anyone actually believe it? Well, Mackie builds his case on two really powerful arguments that are the backbone of this whole theory. The first piece of evidence is something we can all see for ourselves, right? Just look around the world, look throughout history. Moral codes are all over the place. I mean, just look at these examples. In some societies, an honor killing is considered a moral duty. In others, it's a monstrous crime. For centuries, slavery was a completely accepted part of the economy. Now it's seen as one of the greatest moral evils. Mackie argued that the best way to explain this massive disagreement isn't that some cultures just get it wrong. It's that there's no single objective right to get in the first place. Think about it this way. We don't have different laws of physics in different countries, right? Gravity works the same everywhere. If it didn't, if things fell up in one country and down in another, we'd immediately suspect it wasn't a real fundamental force of the universe. So why, Mackie asks, should we treat morality any differently? And that brings us to Mackie's most famous, and maybe his weirdest, argument. He called it the argument from queerness. And he was using the word queer in its older sense, meaning strange, or just plain peculiar. Seriously, just stop and think about that for a second. If moral facts were real, physical things in the universe, what would they be made of? How would you even detect one? What would it look like? Mackie said that a true moral fact would have to be this incredibly weird kind of entity. It would need to have a sort of do thisness or don't do thisness built right into its very fabric. It would be a fact that, by its very nature, would force you to act a certain way just by knowing it. It's like a rock that yells commands at you. There's just nothing else like that in the entire known universe. So, hearing all this, the first reaction most people have is probably a little bit of panic. I get it. If there are no real moral facts, does that mean we just get to live in total chaos?
This is the big one. This is the most common pushback. If there's no objective right and wrong, then why shouldn't I just do whatever I want, whenever I want? It's a really good question, and error theory has a very clear answer.
This is so important to understand. Error theory is not nihilism. Nihilism is the belief that nothing matters. Error theory says, no, objective moral claims are false, but we can, and we absolutely should, still build a set of values to live by. See the difference? It doesn't lead to apathy. It actually puts all the responsibility on us. It's also not the same as moral relativism. You know, the idea that every culture's moral rule book is equally correct. Error theory goes even deeper. It says there is no official rule book for the game of life. Period. The mistake is thinking there's a pre-written book out there somewhere. It's on us to write it. Okay, so if we accept this radical idea, where do we go from here? Well, this is where the theory gets really interesting and constructive. If morality isn't real in the way we thought, then we have to reinvent ethics on a totally new foundation. This is the big kahuna, the single most empowering takeaway from this whole idea. Ethics isn't like astronomy, where we're pointing telescopes at the sky to discover stars that were always there. No, it's more like engineering, where we're actively designing and building something new to solve a real-world problem. And from this point of view, morality is basically a kind of social technology. It's a whole toolkit, rules, emotions like guilt and pride, social pressure, that we humans have invented over millennia to help us get along, to cooperate on a large scale and, not kill each other. This analogy is just perfect. Think about it. Is the rule drive on the right side of the road objectively true? Of course not. It's totally made up. But is it an incredibly useful invention for preventing absolute chaos and saving countless lives? You bet it is. Ethics, according to this theory, works the exact same way. It's not about being true or false. It's about being useful or not useful.
So how do we actually build it? Well, this is pretty much the blueprint. First, we have to figure out our shared goals. What do we all want? Things like, let's reduce suffering, let's promote well-being. Then we design a system of rules and incentives to help us cooperate and get there. It becomes this practical, collaborative project grounded in what we want for ourselves, not in some mysterious command from the cosmos. And that leaves us with this final, incredibly powerful thought. If we are the authors of our own moral code, if we're the ones holding the pen, then the responsibility on our shoulders is just immense. It's not about finding the right path anymore. It's about having the courage and the wisdom to design a good one. So the real question isn't just, what is right? But what kind of world do we want to invent together?